Okay, third gen Camaro, got no horns. Car's been sitting for 2 decades. This is how I debugged it. This is the summary, and then after this is the details. Anyways, had no horns. Car's been sitting. First thing I did is try the courtesy fuse here. This is the same as the cigarette lighter and the light that's underneath the where the pedals are. This fuse was good. Then I went ahead and pulled the horn relay, which is over here in the convenience center. Mine's got 2 7mm screws you undo. It's easier to get at it that way. Pulled this out, got 12 volts here, so that's good. I ohmed up between terminal B and ground, it's open. That's the horn switch. Went between C and ground, and that's open. So it's like the horns aren't there, nor the switch. Then I went through, checked the relay, hooked that up to a light bulb, pulled this out, the relay clicks, 12 volts, and it can fire off a little headlight. So I know this is good. Then I went through and took this connector off the horn right here, and that was all corroded. Mine's actually a single horn. But took the connector off that, and I also undid this connector that's on here, and that was all corroded up. And I fished those out of there and sanded all those down here into here. Before I did that, I backfed the horn, got it to fire off with a wire to the battery, 12 volts. Then I sanded these two. Then I can hook 12 volts onto here. The horn will fire. Then I went through, put the relay back in, and connected up to B, and click, it'll fire. So now this whole thing works except the slip rings. I went through this horn contact and sanded this down, and then I went through and took the wheels and actually lifted the wheels off the front and turned the steering wheel lock to lock about 20 to 30 times, and I've got this now to work. So the slip rings on here, because the car sat, evidently this is open circuit. And so by turning the steering wheel back and forth a bunch of times, it must scratch through here. Now I've got the whole thing to work. And that's about it. It's kind of more than one or two things. I didn't want to have to take the steering column apart, but evidently using the car scratches this and gets that to work. I'm trying to debug the horn on the 82 Camaro 3rd gen. We've got power here to the courtesy fuse, power here to where the horn relay is. I've got no continuity between B to ground when you hit the horn switch. Then if I ohm out between C and ground, that's open. So there's either a bad connection here at the horn or the slip ring. But I'm going to go ahead and check the relay. Here's what the pinout looks from the bottom. I've got the relay hooked up to a light bulb here and to a battery. And if I go over here and ground terminal B, you can hear it click, the light goes. So the relay works. That was kind of stuck in there. I had to wiggle it around a bunch. And on the convenience center on mine, there's 2 7mm screws that if you undo, you can flop this down a little bit better. And since this is just a base car, all it has is a hazard washer, flasher, and then the horn relay. There's no choke relay. Then I think there's just a blank box here for audio alarm. The turn flasher is actually in a different place. It's kind of just hanging up in there. So I need to go through and check this out and check this next. Okay, there's the convenience center. I've gone through and loosened up these 7mm screws and taken them out, put them back in, so I've got the whole shebang hanging low. That's just because I had a hard time getting this out and I didn't want to break anything. But I've gone through and checked between this terminal has got 12 volts. Okay, that's terminal A. And that's this one right here. And this goes through the courtesy fuse, which on my car is also the cigarette lighter. It's also the interior lights. I've got the bottom off here. So the dome light works, and the interior lights and the cigarette lighter, this should have power. And so the fuse that powers that goes through is a 20 amp fuse that's underneath here. And this one is this guy right here. If I pull it out, that light will go out. So that's got a good fuse there. So I've gone through and checked between C, and that's open for some strange reason. So it could be this connection right here is forborked, in the sense that I gotta undo it and see if there's some corrosion there. This should ohm out just a few ohms to the horn. In fact, from here I don't get anything when I push the horn switch, so I think I probably have a horn switch problem. But because this doesn't click, you should hear it click when you hit the you got slip rings here. If the car hasn't been used a lot, sometimes you got to move the steering wheel back and forth to get the crap off the slip rings. And the horn switch on this, the base model, is just on here. I've got the cap pushed off, and these are the contacts. There's actually 4 contacts here. So that's part of the debugging. And I've replaced the flasher here without pulling this down before. He used to reach up under there. But that guy there, the yellow thing, was really stuck in there, so I purposely got this dangling down just so I could get at it. That's the computer diagnostic terminal right there that you ground to get the error codes out. And you can also goose one of the terminals to 12 volts, and it runs the fuel pump on a fuel injection car to check the fuel pump out. And what's weird here is the wiring that goes to the back is actually aluminum to get the weight down. It's solid aluminum wire because it doesn't bend. And I had this apart to check the fuel pump years ago. So I purposely cut this wire, and I was running the fuel pump from here because I didn't know what was going on before on that. But I got another day I got to go ahead and fool with this thing. And if the horn is not hooked up, I can just hook a wire to here and bypass this for a while till I get the horn switch fixed. But later on I'm going to crawl under the car and scratch this, because this should ohm out unless the horn's bad. But the horn was good 20 years ago in this car, so it's probably just a bad connection here that's got crap in it. And this courtesy fuse here, what do we got over here, is this cargo lamp, cigar lighter, horn, interior lights. This is 82. Okay, got a clip lead hooked up to the horn. Connector is a little bit hard to undo, but I'm just going to directly hook that up to the battery to see if it's grounded properly and see if we get it to actually sound off. It's hooked down here to a wire I've got. So this has got a single horn, so this is connected here. There's actually two connectors here. This one's at the firewall. This is down here. So the horn works. This one connects up to here, and then this other one hooks up to the horn. And they do that because there's sometimes you have dual horns that are connected together. And this connection here was really bad. I had a hard time getting this undone. What I did is undid this from the horn, and then I went and used a wire and fished it up so I could undo it here. I had to really mess around not to rip this apart, but I've gone through and scratched all this. So it was all corroded up, so that's an area that, another reason why the horn wasn't firing off. That plugs in the horn, and then this plugs into here. Got a jumper wire here. This is the green wire, goes up underneath to the relay, and I'm going to put this in here like this and check the continuity from here to where the relay socket is, which is back here at C. I got a jumper wire from here, and I'm going to go around and check it to this connection here. So that's good, which means a relay to that connection is good. And that's to C right here. So this connection, these two were corroded up, and that's why originally I couldn't get any continuity. Actually, I powered this directly with 12 volts and it wouldn't fire off. Horn wouldn't go. Okay, I've scratched in there to try to get all that decent connection in there. Same with this end that goes in the horn. That was all goofed up and scratching on the horn tab, so it'll make good connections. See, there's a tab here, and there's a little tab feature right there. This little ramp piece, and that's why I had a hard time getting that off there. Okay, we're going to directly hook 12 volts with another wire to this connection with the relay pole, connection C. See if the horn goes off. Just temporarily, I've got a headlight here hooked up to ground, and I've had it, this actually hooks to a 12 volt source. So I've got good connection to there. So then I'm going to plug this into the C connection up here and see if we can make the horn fire. There you go. So that's good. So in summary, we had two connections in here that were bad, just corroded. And I still haven't explored the slip rings yet. And since this car's been sitting, it could be the slip rings are just wonky, and I got to go through and move the wheel back and forth. Or it could be the horn switch up here. Okay, what I've done is I've gone between B here and found the black wire that goes in there, so I don't have to put a connector in there. So I want to just rig up a temporary horn button. It's not the black wire here. There's two different black wires. I kind of went and looked to see which one was closest to the where it goes in the back there, and it turns out it's a smaller diameter one. So if I ohm between here and here, I've got continuity. So I've got a wire here which is on the groundless, and it should fire the relay off. And get a wire here over to a ground point, and we'll just see if this. So I've got from the relay to the horn working. Now with this connection I can go ahead and disconnect the power and try to go through and get this to work. What I've been doing is I got the wheels off the ground and I've been going back and forth seeing if I can get this contact here to free open. So I tapped into this wire here. I can ground that, so I got a horn at least temporarily with another button. And I'm trying to debug this without taking the dash apart, because I think it might be just if I use this a while it'll free the contact up. It's not apparent really what the heck's going on here. There's a down in there, there's a I think that's the contact right there. There's a little gizmo there. I've been moving this back and forth. It hooks to this, and I believe this grounds out on the steering wheel. I've gone up under here with some sandpaper and sanded this on either side. I've gone and sanded up underneath these contacts, these four. I'm trying to move this back and forth. So now with the green wire here, I can hook that up to the ohm meter and go back and forth with the power off, just so I can go through and try to get this connection to work. So see the switch here, which I believe is just this, or it's the slip ring, which means if I go back and forth here, I might just free it up. I got the wheels off the ground so I don't scrub. Then you get corrosion and stuff. So I'm getting there. Okay, I've got a wire hooked up to here, and I've gone through and been moving the steering wheel back and forth, and finally got this to honk without taking it apart, just by get the wheels off the ground. Turn this a bunch of times. But okay, it's working sometimes. So just by revolving the steering wheel back and forth about probably 20 times lock to lock, I've got this contact to free up. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and hook a temporary horn switch to this, gets cleaned up. So by just revolving the wheel back and forth about 20-30 times here, get the wheels off the ground, I've somehow cleaned up this contact to where it's working. So in summary, what happened is I had, this is a dirty contact here, these were kind of dirty here, and the two connections here were corroded. So finally getting this thing working. Dirty slip rings, two connections here, and under the horn. Wow.